are Mourngul Haunters Party Crashers in Tides of Torment. I'm stubbornly continuing to do Vampire Coast content because they're a lot more viable generally with Tides of Torment content running. The Haunter isn't just a stealth melee hero, he's a weirdly effective gate basher in sieges when your artillery is lacking. He provides slowdown in front of your gun lines, and he brings you more money in post-battle loot. And money is on life. Speaking of, record for 1200 gold and 325 upkeep, so yeah, their upkeep got tweaked higher. On Ultra they come at 6,568 health. Armor starts at 40, but missile resistance starts at 30%, not the usual 15%. This is a key clue about how we're expected to use the hero. He'll shrug off stray bullets a lot better than most, whether they're yours or the other side's. Leadership 60 is pretty good for undead in the big picture. Speed 54 and charge speed 86 is in the troll tier in a faction that is pretty slow generally. Melee attack begins 48, which isn't the worst but isn't super high, and every attack inflicts frostbite for 10 seconds of minus 30% speed with an attack interval of 3 seconds. The usual is 4 seconds. A Vargulf is just under 3 seconds. T'Challa is too. This is an unusually frenetic pace, but the animations can actually be long, so that does balance out to some degree. Splash target size, medium, means Knights of the Black Rose on down, and max targets damage by splash, despite being the new system, is 6. This is very high for a hero. Melee defense begins at 38. This isn't high, reflecting the size and lack of fine agility, but that's mostly an issue in duels. Weapon strength for 120 is split base 140 and armor piercing to 180, so twice as much armor piercing as not, with a bonus versus infantry of 25. That means melee attack 73 against infantry and weapon strength for 145 against the same at rank 1. That's pretty good. That's like some ogre bruiser stuff. Charge bonus is 40 to start and mass is 2500, not light. Considered a siege attacker, which gives it a bonus of plus 50% damage versus buildings, like gates. It causes fear and terror, can do vanguard deployment, strider and stalk just like Mournguls generally, and is of course undead. Moreover, even without pips in this, it has the Hunger, for regeneration in melee and melee only, and the Chilling Aura, so a minus 30% speed hex in 35 meters that should be cumulative with Frostbite. So, it has 2 bites at the frozen apple to slow things down around it. In terms of skills, this is a scavenge hero, therefore its presence and upkeep are balanced by bringing you more money after a battle is won. So, that's nice. Spread corruption means they serve to rack up the score with vampiric corruption in that current province. It's super difficult to do that with just heroes, but putting a ghostly thumb on the scale is just fine. Agent actions are damage building, rarely useful, assassinate, which is incredibly potent, and hinder replenishment, which has niche but important uses in pursuing a battered foe and taking advantage of vampiric corruption regions when the enemy takes shelter in a settlement, like one it just took from you. Specialist reduces the cost of the agent actions. At rank 2, you can already pick from 4 non-exclusive pips above the yellow combat line, which tends to slow down your getting normal skills, because why wouldn't you take these? The Killing Cold grants melee defense plus 6, and grants this frostbite using hero magical attacks. I guess they just wouldn't allow it for multiplayer, and this is their answer. Insatiable Hunger allows bonus versus infantry an additional plus 10 for a total of plus 35 at this point. You'd think this is like that ogre whose name I can't say out loud. Materialize with an S gives hit points plus 8% and weapon strength plus 12%. Maybe they assumed everybody would get this, and that's why the max targets is where it is. Evanescence rounds this out with physical resistance plus 10% for 1 pip. You weren't getting this before. At rank 5, Haunter of the Dark slaps on plus 15% more missile resistance, and you started with 30, so that's 45. At rank 10, you can get Tenacity for plus 8% more health for 1 pip. All we have left is the combat line. Monkey Jacket gives plus 5% ward save. Ravenous Attack for 3 pips provides melee attack plus 10 and missile resistance plus 5% more, so we can get a total of 50 from skills alone. Master of Strike gives plus 20% weapon strength at 3. Scarred Veteran plus 15% health at 3. Hard to hit plus 12 melee defense at 3. Midway Pip is the very normal foe seeker, not just to crank up speed, but to kiss a measure of fatigue goodbye. Devourer of All gives plus 20% more weapon strength, so we're pretty up there now, but no other benefits at 3 pips. Carnophage gives another plus 12 melee defense at 3, that started a little weak. Devastating Charge gives up to plus 30 flat charge bonus at 3 pips, shoring up an area that was decent only. Wild-Eyed is the relatively weak plus 9 melee attack at 3 pips, but we already had a lot going for us there. And the Capstone is good old Deadly Onslaught. Melee damage plus 25% generally, and charge bonus plus 60% specifically, 31 second duration, 90 second cooldown. So how do we use the Mourngul Haunter? I will say up front that I had little success using one as a solo artillery ganking unit. I've had far more success using one leading a goon squad of lesser entities, even bats. The Haunter often ends up your least worst option for desperately trying to slow down something large, armored, and insistent, so despite the mismatches created, because ideally you'd just leave this guy alone to wail on armored infantry all day. You're having to compromise and exploit the slowdown to get big nasty things shot, or get massed armored infantry shot. Get lords and heroes shot. Basically a big practical use is as the hero anchoring gunnery gameplay. Whereas the gunnery wight directly helps the gunners, the Haunter indirectly helps them by buying lots of time. That said, while there are pain points, that's a lot of aggression in one package. The big point is that this is a large entity, therefore having him wail on anti-large infantry puts him at risk. The broader issue is that up to 50% missile resistance is great, but you don't want him getting shot for that long, and he's not that good at tanking and melee itself. The hunger is just prolonging the inevitable. So, first, up to the battle healing cap, the Lore of Vampires works really well with him. Second, Avast Ye and so on for temporary melee damage boosting makes the rich richer, so there's that, and Taunt/Hornswoggle helps them crush foes too. Finally, the frenetic attacks and decent weapon strength really do make this a decent anti-gate unit, where the faction is filled with a lot of pretty bad against gates units, unless a Carronade or maybe a Necrofex. This will expand your flanking options, should you be in any position to take advantage. And also this hero puts lighter characters on their rear ends a lot, so you can disrupt spellcasters, ranged attackers, and so on a lot better than some things. That is the long and the short of it. Stock can be great, but stock and an isolated hero with defense issues will often be bad. So just have him avoid being sniped cheaply. Make him drag opposition down, and make the combination much more potent than the value of his claws and gigantic mouth on their own. Take care, and have fun scaring the souls out of your foes.